Hi, everyone. We're going to take a look today on some tips and tricks in CTO PCI. And the primary goal is avoiding complications. As we know, the thing that always fears us when we take on complex PCI and CTOs are the risk of complications. So this talk is really not about a case complication, but it's about what are some things that you can do to avoid complications. Perforations is probably the biggest challenge, and we are always worried, and this is a real risk when we are talking about CTOs. This can happen in the main body, the distal vessel, or in a collateral. So how do you avoid perforations? So here is a case that I did a few years ago in Hyderabad with a fatal lemur. There's ischemia in the LAD territory. There's a patent graft to the CERT. The first way you avoid a complication is by trying and not taking that epicardial collateral that goes through the graft to the OM. That would be really high end. So the plan, given that it's a long lesion um, and the distal vessel is okay, collateral is really iffy, proximal cap is discrete. Primary strategy is to do ADR. Um, so this what all goes into avoiding complications. Number one, go into the plan, understand the anatomy, go with the safest approach first. If that doesn't work, if you're really comfortable, then and only then should you consider retrograde. So here is knuckle with the intent of doing ADR, microcatheter, miracle 12. You're in the architecture of the vessel. In this particular case, it so happened that Stingray wasn't available, so parallel wiring was done, in alongside the knuckle, and that kind of pretty much finished the case. As you can see, that's a Conquest for 12 entering the true lumen. Then this is exchanged for a workhorse wire, and that's the final result of the LAD. Here's another case from a couple of years ago. So this is a CERC CTO. Once again, this actually was a live case, long 20 millimeter plus lesion. This vessel is possibly okay, near a bifurcation. Collaterals are iffy again, and the proximal cap was ambiguous, so really not a great case. But the plan was to try and do antegrade wire escalation after IVUS entry. If this didn't work, to switch to retrograde. If that didn't work, to go ADR. So IVUS guided puncture of the proximal cap, as you can see at 11-12. You've identified the proximal cap and punctured, so that's another pearl. Don't stick in blind, use IVUS, use imaging judiciously to identify anytime you have anatomic ambiguity. And then penetrate a wire, dual lumen catheter. However, wiring was unsuccessful. As you can see, the wire is nowhere close to the vessel. Multiple wires were tried, no retrograde option. Convince the primary operator to knuckle. Here's the knuckle going in along with the caravel. Knuckle is in the architecture of the vessel. Miracle, that's a Stingray balloon that's going to come down here. That's here and here. Once that's in position, you see that it's in the architecture of the vessel. Stick and drive. Just going to let this video play. Okay, there, that's in. Once again, exchange for a work microcatheter goes in. Exchange for a workhorse wire. Secure the other branch with the dual lumen catheter. At this point, confirm that you are in the true lumen in both the branches. The 12-1, you see true lumen, then you will see subintimal space, and more proximally true lumen. So use imaging here, for example, in this case, is used to both identify the proximal cap and to also confirm that we secured both the branches. That's the final result. Okay. Here's another case that we did in Delhi, father of a cardiac surgeon. And lo and behold, already had bypass surgery, RCA CTO, appropriate indication, refractory angina, good medical therapy. And of course, it's a double CTO with the PDA occluded as well as the RCA occluded. Crossed without much effort. Initial wiring was unsuccessful. I really did want to try and go through the true here into the RCA, but unsuccessful. That didn't work. That's the tenting. That's probably where the graft is anastomosed. knuckle, advanced all the way back, and then it ended up being a reverse card. The plan was to just bail out and get the PL as a separate stick or as a separate retrograde option. So once this was done, thankfully, miraculously, it stayed open. So it's kind of a sometimes God is kind and you just take what you get, run with it. Timmy three flow, great answer. Got both branches. So the key, really, one of the key tips that I want to emphasize on, especially in India, is knuckles tend to stay in the architecture of the vessel, whether it's antegrade or retrograde, as you saw in the last couple of cases. Do not advance gear without knowing your wire position. That's a very important thing. So this was again maybe 2 or 3 years ago in Chennai. Um, this is a Cirque CTO. There's a dual lumen catheter to even enter into the epicardial collateral, SU03 to cross the collateral, um, unfavorable angle of exit. There's a safety wire placed, and then there's a retrograde Carlino. Using the dissections, was able to puncture antegrade, and here's the final result. And the whole point of doing this case was not about the epicardial collateral, but what I want to emphasize is that crossing the CTO can mean using a lot of strategies and using them judiciously. These include knuckling, Carlino, and other strategies. Here's another, this is a case from actually in China. Anatomic ambiguity, retrograde knuckle. It's going in some weird area. Just not sure. Retrograde Carlino showed the course of the vessel. So once this was done, used an antegrade knuckle, got in, and then there was a guide extension reverse card. So not a big deal. This was done. And here's the final result. So really what I want to emphasize on is, have a low threshold for using imaging, IRIS especially, to identify cap, branches, etc. Before you advance gear, make sure you know where you are, um, so that you don't create a huge perf. Understand what it means, when we talk about dance, etc. And most importantly, use the knuckle. It can save you many, many times. Thank you very much for your attention.